Welcome to Living Life Gospel. Real life, real talk, real hope. Every show. Join us every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. as we discuss topics relating to life, church, family, education, and so much more. Invite a friend. Tag them even. But don't you dare miss the show. Living Life God's Way. Every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Welcome to Living Life God's Way. Real life, real talk, real hope. Every show. Join us every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. as we discuss topics relating to life, church, family, education, and so much more. Invite a friend. Tag them even. But don't you dare miss the show. Living Life God's Way. Every Thursday at 6:30 p.m.
Good evening to you. Welcome to Living Life God's Way. We greet you in Jesus' name. Thank you for being with us this evening. This evening we're discussing raising teens in a Christian home. We're going to have some examination from these two ladies and myself on this subject. We're going to, talk about teens and what's happening with them now and so on. So we invite you to be a part of this discussion, and we hope that you will learn something from it and will be able to apply it to your life. Shirley?
Well, it's an interesting topic. I was thinking about it a lot. What do we do as parents? Do we qualify as parents? How do we get the best out of this experience? So it will be very interesting to hear it. And as usual, we say, ask your questions, make your comments, and share the link with someone else. And let's get the show going.
Yes, good evening. Looking forward to this discussion. I think it's going to be quite intense at times, but I think it will be useful and I think it'll be informative. So yeah, looking forward to it.
For sure, and I totally agree. Please tag someone, tell them, come on, Living Life God's Way is on. And we want your moms and your dads to tune into this program, and maybe you can get your children, your teens, to be involved this evening as we share some insight. Interesting, all three of us. We have teenagers and young people that we are parenting. So we have a wealth of knowledge and wealth of experience to share with you. So please tag someone, tell them Living Life God's Way is on, and we are discussing raising teens in a Christian home in the 21st century. Not just any other century, the 21st century. So please stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, we're back this evening on Living Life God's Way. As we said, we're discussing this here at the bottom of the screen. We're discussing raising teens in a Christian home, or we may even say raising teens in the 21st century, so that it will be more holistic from that point of view. So, Elder Sharni, what is a teenager?
Yes, please.
Well, please tell us what's a teenager. Who
All right.
are they and where are they from?
Hello. So when you talk about teens or teenagers, you're talking about the years of a person or a child from 13 to 19. That's it.
13 to 19.
Yes, please.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Tell us a bit more about them. Anything else you have there?
No, I just give you definition because I know that's the opening.
Okay.
If you want to talk more about
them. Go ahead.
I mean, these 13, let's say starting from 13. What I recognize about teenagers, they are always, for most part, excited. They can't wait to hear that they're in the teens. That means they're getting older, and it also means, and they feel that they have a little bit more rights. But also they call it the stormy teens. because that's when they are in transition from that childhood, moving from strict dependency to wanting and desiring more freedom. And now they're trying to decide what career or what kind of things they like and what to participate and what type of friends to have. And here's where they tend to be led by peers if they are not careful. So many times the teenage years they call stormy years. That's what they're called, but we'll talk more about it.
All righty.
Yes, please.
Now, you want to go ahead and throw in your piece?
I know them. Yeah, 13 to 19, because the teen, isn't it? 13
Yeah.
and 19.
Right.
It is a difficult age group to be in, between 13 and 19 for sure. I think there's a lot going on for them during those years.
Yeah.
There's exams, there's puberty, there's identity seeking,
Yeah.
there's friendships and forming those friendships or not forming those friendships, because not all children or in their teens are, versed in making friendships. So there's a whole kind of friendships and developing those friendships.
Right.
And it's a lot about self-discovery as well. There's a lot of self-discovery during that time. And I think it's a really challenging time, because I said you're doing critical examinations at school. Your body's going through a huge change process.
Right.
Your mind is going through a whole change process, but yet you're expected to still function and behave and do all those things. So I think it is a stormy time, but I think it's more stormy for the teenager personally than parents or community people. When we have to work with them and help them.
Yeah.
But it's a really, when you sit down and really think about what a teenager has to go through during those years, it's quite stormy for them, to be honest.
And don't forget, at that time now, that's when they're supposed to choose the career.
That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of pressure at
Yeah.
that time for them. So, yeah.
I think what we can also drop in now, definition for parents and parenting, because the first thing, of course, our theme is raising. And so I actually checked for that word, raising, and it means to lift or to move to a higher position or level. And certainly that has implication on parenting. And also when I look for parent, it says a father or a mother or someone who acts as a parent. Parenting, on the other hand, is the activities of bringing up a child. Simple. Activities of bringing up a child. So I thought I would drop that in there.
Okay. All right. So we pretty much laid the foundation on who teens are and stuff like that. Let's talk a bit now about raising these young people. What are some of the challenges? And I know you've identified kids, having a difficult time because they're trying to figure out who they are. They're learning. Their bodies are talking to them. Literally. Literally. And it's a time of major readjustments. So what do we do? How do we raise these young people, ladies? Who's going to You guys are doing it. You guys are currently doing it. So what are some of the things that you guys do in terms of whether it's helping, showing? I'm sure at times you lecture. I'm sure at times you have to punish. I'm sure at times you have to be firm and so on. Tell us maybe one of the things that, let's start with you, Doc. What was one of the things that in terms of raising a teen that you have to look at first, or what something that you would consider important in raising this teen?
Raising this teen.
Yeah.
There's so much. There is so much to consider. I think, I speak for myself as raising a new teen. My son's just turned 13. I think for me, it's getting to grips myself that he's growing up, and that there's certain things that I used to do with him that are no longer applicable. Things that I would say are no longer applicable. I have to put them in a different way because, he has a different level of understanding. So I think for parents, it's really about knowing yourself as well as an individual.
Right.
And I think once you know yourself, what you will tolerate, what's acceptable, you yourself have a clear structure, I would say, a clear structure of how you want your child to grow. Because there's a definition here that says parenting is a process of promoting and supporting the development of a child. Yeah. And the Bible scripture is about train a child in the way it should go.
Right.
So I think you have to be very clear about what kind of adult you wish to release into society.
Right.
And I think
to be
that's
somebody who's like me or not.
correct, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's what you have to be clear on. You have to be clear with, how do I want my child to be? Because they're always going to be your child. They're not always going to be a child,
Yeah.
but they're always going to be your child.
Right.
And so how, you have to think about, what do I want my child to do, to represent? How do I want him or her to function in society? You want your child to be married and to have children, to be sustainable and all of that, and successful. So you have to put in the work in order to help them do that.
Right.
So I think you have to be clear about what you want for your child, and then follow through with your activities, as you said, in terms of that development process, because it is your responsibility to groom, to massage, to structure that child. Obviously, when they become adults and they go out in the world, you have no control. But during these formative years, whether it be from birth right up to maybe they're a legal adult, or for me, as long as they're under my roof. So if you're 21, then we're still parenting because you're under my roof. Until you leave and become a complete and independent adult, it is your responsibility to mold that child into what you want them to be in society. So you have to be clear about what you want your child to achieve.
Okay.
I liken parenting to a ceramic artist, where they'll have the potter's wheel and they have instruments and tools that they'll use to raise, to lift, and to shape and to define this form. And it's important he use the tools to get the effect that he wants. If he applies a little pressure, it will cause it to go in. If he pulls it out, it forms an interesting shape. So as you were saying, it's very important to have that imagery or that understanding of what kind of person you want to leave home as they get older. So now that you have that picture in front of you now, then we have to examine, or I have to examine, and sometimes still examine, because I find as they get older, different ages, different stages, you have to examine now, so what's my role here? And I think one of the roles that really hit me is that you have to back off a little bit, give them space so that they can, to see how much they've learned from what you have been passing on. So part of that role now, you become like a consultant. You've been feeding them with information, the word, and praying with them, and devotion, and so forth. So now you have to give them a chance now to exercise this thing. So what do they do when they're in a scenario where probably there's conflict? Or how do they handle making the choices for their subject? So you give them, all right, they'll work it out, and then they'll come and say, all right, I have chosen X, Y, and Z. What do you think? And here, because of the invitation now, you can tell them, so your role changes. And you have to understand, you have the role of being a consultant. You have the role of being like a teacher. And you have the role of being a role model. Because if I can't remember the exact saying, but if you have in mind the kind of child you want coming out, then you have to examine what kind of person am I modeling to them? How do I handle this? How do I handle that? And you keep asking yourself, because children remember more what you do than what you say. Yeah. So these are things, and that's an ongoing process. And as I told my children, look, it's one thing to say I want to be a parent and love it, but when the rubber meets the road, I'm not a professional, but I'm doing all that I can. So, we work together on this. If there's somewhere I'm slipping up, let me know. We talk about it. But it is a growing process. Humbling too. Yeah.
All right. So Okay, so we're raising these young people, and we're showing them life in terms of, because we are experienced and we've gone through
Yeah.
certain things that we're able to point them in the right direction. We are in a place now where the world is evolving so much, and there are so many things that are available to show them, the opposite of what we're thinking. For example, we have the games going on where they play, and they may have in their mind that they want to be a professional gamer. And based on our culture and based on where we are, we know that at this time that may not be the best decision. So we want to point them in a nice direction. So how I'm going to give my thought about it after, but I want to hear you ladies. How would you approach something like that?
I find, at least for me, having older teens who actually had to go and select CXC. I remember my first child, and she had to select CXC, and also my son as he goes up in fourth form. And I remember one question asked, so when I was growing up, what it is I enjoy doing? Right? Because I always say that for you to have an idea where your child is going, observe what they have been doing. So I remember I gave her the answer, and she said, right, that's true. I enjoy this, I enjoy that. So she started to do some research in that particular area. And certainly when I'm working with other teens in the school environment, I ask the same question. And I realized, because I'm in the area of art, I realized one thing in common. Each parent would have said that their child liked drawing. They always would drawing something, doodling, coloring something, even if they were coloring the wall from childhood, right? And now they are thinking about pursuing a career as being an architect or graphic designer, etc. But they had one thing in common. They were all demonstrating their interest in the area from childhood, right? So that's one way to observe the child. Yeah.
So then, how well, in terms of your opinion, how then do you approach where the child wants to go in a different direction? It may not be gaming, and maybe something else. Where the child wants to do something else, but as a parent, you're thinking, I think this is the best decision that you made. How do you handle something like that?
Well, that's like a dialogue there, and that's a tricky one. I remember having to face that scenario, I think with I guess it was a student. But basically it's about finding out why they want to pursue a particular area. Sometimes they went to a career show, ooh, it looks real nice. It looks like you're going to get a lot of money or so and so. And sometimes that's a motivating factor. You're going to get a lot of money. While yes, it is important to have enough finance, it's very important to touch with your passion, touch with something that you enjoy doing. You tend to go, at least to say that you tend to go further and make a greater impact when it is within an area of interest, something that connects with you. So, you always try to give them the pros and cons. Okay, yeah, you might get more money there, but would you be happy on the job? Or this, you try to carry them in the environment, or you give them examples. This is what it is like. Is this something you want to do? And then you give them, well, based on what we have been observing, you do this naturally, you get higher grades, or it reflects your personality. And so you just give them it there, and I guess it comes back again, they're coming up with a decision, And sometimes it's all choose for me, but it's like, no, I prefer you choose. So that, because you have to follow up with commitment in whatever you do. So, yeah, it's a discussion. To me, yeah, it's a discussion.
I'm going to stick with your example of the gaming industry. I think because it is such a big thing for young people, particularly young boys. I mean, there's girl gamers out there as well, but it is a huge industry. And you mentioned it's about the 21st century, and gaming is big, right? Yeah. I mean, in gaming industry took over $100 billion in revenue, right? US. So it's not an industry which is just sit down and gaming. There's if we're talking about money and things like that, there's money in it, right? And And I think as we are in the 21st century, and as we need to move with the times, we need to look at these alternative careers
Right.
that are not the traditional route. And I know a lot of parents want the traditional route. They want children to be politicians, lawyers, accountants, but that's not all. There's lots of jobs out there, different occupations.
Right.
And just kind of leading on from what Elder Sheridan is saying, it's about knowing your child. What is your child good at? And I think some of the mistakes we've made, particularly I've observed in the Caribbean, but just in general, you know, we want our children to do the traditional stuff, to make us proud.
Right.
That's what it's about.
So it's all if it's about
it's
us.
about us.
Yeah.
It's about us. It's
They
about
live
us.
out
It's
our
about
dreams.
us. Yeah, exactly. We have the living out your dream because you didn't get to do it, so you want your child to do it, or you want your child out there so you can turn and say, "No, my child's a lawyer. Oh, my child's an accountant. What does your child do?" We want, let's cut it down to bare bones. That's what it's about. And I'm not about that. That it shouldn't be about that. Obviously, you don't want your child doing a career that is illegal or is bad for their health or anything like that. Obvious things aside.
Yeah.
You have to know your child. And for me, I want my child to be happy.
That's it.
That's the bottom. And I think most parents want their child to be happy. Happy and healthy. Those are kind of two H's, yeah? Happy and healthy. So if your child shows tremendous skill in these non-traditional areas, gaming, the arts, dance, drama, whatever, I'm telling you, support them. Support them, because the ones who have made it, that we see on TV and stuff like that, they've made it in sports, in the arts, in gaming. Even if he wants to be a YouTuber, you know how much money YouTubers make? Influencers now. Influencers are now being called into the corporate world to do talks, to speak to other managers and things like that, how to be an influencer. Influence now is such a big thing.
Right.
So you say you're a YouTuber or a TikToker or Instagram or whatever, those people are influencing the world.
Certainly.
Right? So we need to really take a different approach to our children's careers, support them, know what they enjoy, know what they're really good at, what they excel at, and support them in that, even if it's not what you would want, because it's not about you.
Yeah,
It's about, as I said, it's about
How can you say
developing.
that? It's not.
It's not about you. It's not about you. It's not about us. It's not about us. People. It's not about us. It's not about us. What it's about us is us making the best, or helping to support and develop the best, or the next generation.
Right.
So when you close your eyes and your generation is continuing, it's not just your child, it's your child's child and child's child's child. We're talking about generations. You can sleep peacefully, knowing that you've done your best and you've given them all the resources and things to make themselves happy. What they then do with it when they're adults, then you have no control over. But whilst they're under your care, you have to, support them in what they want to do.
Right.
Because again, it's about raising them up to the level where they can be at their best.
Yeah, not everybody's academic. Do you know how many doctors and lawyers we've got in Barbados? In the world.
Yeah.
Just generally, we need other industries. Right now, how many plumbers do you know that you can call that are, professional, on time? The ones that you are, you can't get them because they are inundated. Inundated. Carpenters, electricians. Those are jobs that people will say, he's an electrician.
But
well, when your house needs rewiring, who do you have to call? Right? So, and my dad always said, men should always have a trade. I know some men. But men should have a trade. They should be able to fix something. And a lot of men can't fix anything.
Fix something, brother.
Yeah. So.
And I share your sentiments, and I totally agree with you, because we are in an ever-changing world. And the world that we're in now, there's so much electronics involved. I mean, COVID has opened the realm of working at home, where we can sit at home and do our functions. So I think that, and also your child could be the very first person in a country or in a particular geographic location that can be the very first one to do something. So we really have to be careful of trying to point these children in the traditional way, because we're not in the traditional era. we're in an era where so much has
Absolutely.
changed, and and the children are they're not dumb, and I like the idea that I mean I love to talk to young people, and there's so much insight from them, even though that they're young. They have a lot of insight, and
It's true.
when at that age, the sky is the limit if you are focused. And I think one of the important things for us as parents to do is help our children to be focused. So if they want to be whatever,
Yeah,
this is what you need to do to be that.
correct.
And I think we miss when we don't help them to be focused. And if you have a child where the child is all over the place, that's a different story. But when you have a child who is really serious about something,
Mhm.
I think as parents we have to do better and try to help them. We can do our own research. We can
Yeah,
we can check and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just on that tip of gaming,
Mhm.
it's kind of a little passion because I've got teenagers who are into gaming.
Right. Yep.
But they just there's a new company here in Barbados that just opened up a gaming company
Yeah.
and using talent here now. So
yeah,
even Little Barbados now has a gaming organization on the island
Right.
doing gaming.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's becoming an industry, and
Yeah.
the Prime Minister was there to open it up
yeah,
to support and so on. So it's not just some kind of fly by night
mhm,
industry.
Right.
exactly.
Right.
I'm saying, parenting forces you to embrace a broader approach. And I think what happens sometimes is that we tend to parent the way that we were parented, of course, forgetting, as you were saying just now, two different stages, ages,
Era.
era.
How many times do you hear parents say, "This happened in my time.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
This happened in my time"? I
Right.
find myself saying it.
Yeah.
I vowed I'd never say it. You say
know?
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Different
so
time.
what was needed in that time definitely may not be needed now.
Right.
So you have to be educating yourself as well as to what are the needs of society, where the society is going, and when you watch your child and their skill and see how they fit in, because it's about raising them so that they can fit and contribute.
Mhm.
You don't want to raise a child that nothing they have can plug into community because that's going to affect them emotionally as well. So we have to change, and not only that, ask questions. Yeah, ask questions and get the tools that are necessary to raise these children. Because as Pauline was saying, it's not about us. It's about sometimes you have to humble yourself. You would like to look at it like a parent who knows everything and you have everything together in place, but at the sacrifice of what? I prefer ask a question or you get help so that you are informed to help that child in a better way.
Right.
It's about giving them the tools, right? So when it comes to parenting, especially parenting tools, in terms of parenting teens, here's where we have to listen to. We used to get this lecture approach, but we have to do this because I say so. But why? But I don't understand. I tell you to do it, you just make sure it is done. But
Right.
not
There's a time and place for that.
Well, I get you. I
But
get
yeah,
you.
in
But
terms
not
of
as a
career
norm.
choice, you gotta
Not as a
sit down.
norm.
Mm.
Because we know how intelligent they are and
Much
they
so.
can represent themselves well and navigate themselves out of roles and responsibility nicely. And when we hear them heading out road, it's like you put the full stop. Listen, it is your responsibility to go and clean that. End of discussion. But then there's sometimes where they're feeling things and you're trying to understand. You really have to listen. Yeah.
All right. So I'm enjoying the ladies share their thoughts with us. I'm gonna drop another bomb, and this one is gonna be. So
Glad I'm sitting down.
you have a daughter, and you think on it, and we'll take a quick break and come back.
You're pointing.
So we're talking about raising teens in a Christian home. So I wanna get So your daughter comes home and says, "Mommy, I have found this new career and I'm excited about it. I want to model bathing suits." How do you approach that? We'll be right back on Living Life God's Way. Please share your thoughts with us. And we're talking about raising them in a Christian home. So bathing suits and Christian home, it should be good. So please stay with us. We'll be right back on Living Life God's Way.
Welcome to Living Life God's Way. Real life, real talk, real hope. Every show. Join us every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. as we discuss topics relating to life, church, family, education, and so much more. Invite a friend. Tag them even. But don't you dare miss the show. Living Life God's Way. Every Thursday at 6:30 p.m.
All right, so welcome back to Living Life God's Way. So we left with a question on the table. A bomb question. And the question was, you're raising a teenage daughter, we were talking about in the Christian home, and she comes home and she says, Mommy, Daddy, I found this new career, I'm excited about it. I want to model bathing suits. What would your response be? Let's start with Alice Sheridan. Alice Sheridan, what would your response be?
I have to have a week of prayer and fasting. But seriously, Jesus. But this is it. Basically, the child is excited, and they come across, they found something that they find is valid.
Right.
So my big curiosity is, what about this career woos you, that makes you feel you want to pursue it of all other careers? Then you listen and you hear what they're saying. All right. So then you let them know, okay, based on research, that's where you do your little research. That's the thing about Google. You can sit together and let's Google this thing now. Now, when it comes to modeling, what are they wearing? Do they have control on what they wear? Not
It's bathing suits.
It's
Bathing
not
suits,
how-
she's modeling
suits.
bathing suits.
Modeling
She's
bathing
modeling
suits.
bathing suits.
You cut the long shot, you're going straight to the meat. Bathing suit. I'm saying, let's look at some of these bathing suits they're advertising.
And all this is discussion that you're having.
Yes, you have to, because I'm building up to tell the child no. That's all.
Why did I know it was that?
I'm building up to say no, in the sense that when you are growing, you are forming definitions, you're forming an image of yourself, and when you go there, they are mainly advertising flesh. It's all about sex and sexuality. Then when you look at the poses, it's more than just a bath suit. You understand? You look at it, they have it all glamorous, but at the end of the day, it's like sex they're advertising. Now, all the precious stones, all the precious things created by God was hidden. That's an old story I heard. You find the diamond, the gold in the soil.
I mean, you have to look.
So,
It's
it's not, I shouldn't be just looking at you and can define and imagine everything on the table. You understand? So you have to help guide them in this particular direction. And what do you hope to achieve out of all of this? And so what if you want to pursue another career later on, and something that you would have done brought you into question and denies you the opportunity from being a CEO or whatever, because you have yourself near nude?
So what about if they did bathing suit modeling, but with the cover up? You have the wraps and the things and things like that over it.
But that is
Because Christian women wear bathing suits
they
to the
do.
beach.
I
so-
don't mind that. But the thing is, do we have control over that? And that's the next thing I'm saying. That raise. Okay, so if you're thinking about doing that, then we will have to find out what are their expectations, where they're going with this, what standard they have. Now, if it is a Christian organization and they're modeling, as you say, beach wear, Sunday wear, and casual wear, yippee, go
Mhm.
right ahead. But if you're talking within a secular system,
Mhm.
there's a lot that goes on in there. When you read and you find out about it, as I said, building up to say no. And how about you hold on with this for a while, complete your so and so foundational studies, and then later on we can revisit. And all that time you're praying and fasting, Lord.
Amen.
Let it be
If I
that
have to say no.
you know that by then they're inspired. I want to pursue this instead. I think this is me more. It's more me than just that. But
Mm.
yeah,
Well,
a delay tactic.
yeah, and the truth is, these are realities that we parents must face.
Yeah.
Mm.
This may not be your plight, but I know parents who have faced similar. You know, where their daughter came and said, I want to model bathing suits. And the parent, you know, allowed her to do it. For me personally, I would have the conversation, and I would say, I would be honest, and I'll say, I really am not comfortable with you know, modeling bathing suits, showing
Yeah.
off your body publicly,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I really am not comfortable with it. And if you're living under my roof, if you're still, you know, a teenager, so you'll likely be. If I have to, because sometimes as parents we don't want to, but we will have to make executive decisions.
Yeah.
Even when our children are upset with us, we'll have to, because we, at the end of the day, they are our charge and we care for them. So if something has the potential to damage them or hurt them, our responsibility is to protect. So I would lay my cards on the table and I would say, honey, I think that this will do you more harm than good at this time.
Correct.
I prefer you not to at this time. When you are in a place where you can make your own decisions, then by all means, you can feel free to make your decision. But even then, I still will not be comfortable because, I mean, there are some careers that you know that likely is going to be dangerous, or the way you tread could be dangerous.
It's true.
You know, that's the reality. And because you care, you share from that point of view of caring. Like I said, if you are a teenager, well, I would say right now, no. Let's look at something else. Or ask, are you open to something else? And if your children are obedient, which I hope they are, they will give in to the parent that have spoken. And I think this is very important, that our teens, our children, learn to honor their mothers and fathers. And all through the scriptures, they will talk about if you honor, this is your honor their father and their mother, that their days may be long in the land, which the Lord their God gives thee. And I think we have to be mindful of that as well. So, like I said, for me personally, I would like, baby girl, shh. I may even do it jokingly. Baby girl, shh, nah, boy. I don't know, girl. You imagine I go sit down and watch you modeling your bathing suit and all your butt at the door and all your fronts at the door and everything. I said, girl, you want to get a heart attack? You know, I will take it down so that when I'm finished, she doesn't feel like I'm beating her over the head.
Right.
Because you can come over as too strong and then you can make rebellion happen. The idea is that everybody understands why you said no, and you give some form of explanation.
Yeah.
Because you know, because like for example, I mean, even a school may be having a school pageant, and your child is 14 years old, and they are cool with wearing a bathing suit and stuff. This is the era that we're living in.
Yeah.
That's the reality. And you know, you're having a pageant, and or you're having Mr. and Miss Saint Francis, and they say, you know what, we're modeling bathing suits and stuff, and I think that we have to raise our children in a way that if this happens, they come and say, well, mommy, daddy, we're in the pageant and they're wearing bathing suits, and not that you show up at the pageant thinking your daughter's gonna have all this nice long dress and look pretty and stuff like that, and then your daughter walks across the stage in a bikini bathing suit. Jesus take the wheel. Oh my Lord, you know. And so I think that conversation is important, and we parents have to be at a place where, you know, we're not our children's friend. We are more parent. So we are you come to us with stuff, and I think that's important to have that level of conversation
Yes,
with your
absolutely.
children. I had my 3 older kids. I had conversation with them. I mean, about sex. You know, my oldest son, I had conversation with when he was growing up. Talks and we talk. You know, my daughter, it's the same thing as they were growing into adulthood. Because I believe that we need to have that, be straight with these young people, because they are straight thinking and they are wise and stuff like that. And they're not like us when we were growing up, where you were frightened to call certain words. I remember when I was growing up and somebody said pregnant to me, I thought they sinned.
Sorry.
Like, seriously, like, so you hear somebody talk about pregnant and like, the Lord watching you. How could you say that word? Pregnant? That's wrong, you know. That's and I grew up thinking that, and to realize as I go older, it's a curse word. It was a curse word. So
now I've heard about someone that didn't even used to use the word sex because he
Right.
thought when they said it he'll get pregnant.
Oh, wow.
It's like
Right.
Yeah.
So our children will laugh at us now if we you know, because they're exposed to so much.
Oh yeah.
And so that's why training is so important, so that as they grow older, they wouldn't depart from what they were taught. You know, I think that's so important. Ladies?
Well, I'm glad I have a daughter. Put it out there. But I think just the point that you made about friends, that was going to be my point, that sometimes parents feel that they have to be friends with their children, and that is not your role.
Right.
Yes, you're friendly, you know,
Right.
you're open to discussion, and you can be a confidant and stuff like that,
Yeah.
but you're not their friend. You are their mother, their father, or their parents.
Right.
You know, they're not your biological children.
Yeah.
You are still their parent, and I think we have to maintain that boundary. And I know that boundary's kind of become blurred with parents being younger
Right.
in today's society. So sometimes the maturity level is not there. The gap between the parent and the child is not there to instill that boundary. But I think that can sometimes be lacking, is that we want to be too friendly with our children, and then we don't parent as well as we should.
Okay, so let's take a quick break here, and when we come back, let's talk about teens and devices.
Devices.
Yeah. I have an interesting story to say. Teens and devices. Please stay with us. We'll be right back on Living Life Gospel.
Welcome to Living Life Gospel. Real life, real talk, real hope. Every show. Join us every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. as we discuss topics relating to life, church, family, education, and so much more. Invite a friend. Tag them even. But don't you dare miss the show. Living Life God's Way. Every Thursday at 6:30 p.m.
Okay, welcome back to Living Life God's Way. As I said, our next angle of raising teens is children and these devices. Let me just say it like that because I sound like I'm giving negative connotation. So, children and devices. I had a friend, and she told me she bought a tablet for her daughter. So her daughter was on it and playing and stuff like that. And she said to her, "Put up that tablet. You're on that tablet too much. Why are you on that tablet so much? You're supposed to be doing your schoolwork." And she went on and on and on. And she told me her daughter sat there and looked at her confused. She tried to look at her like she was confused. So she said, "Why are you looking at me like you're confused?" She said, "Well, Mommy, I am." She goes, "So, Mommy, if this thing is not good for me, why did you buy it?"
You see how
Why did you buy it? So she said, she looked at her like, she goes like, So because in the child's mind, but everything wasn't good for me, Why did you buy it for me?
Everything in moderation.
I'm now thinking.
But tell me, let's talk about it.
That's the thing. Everything is in moderation.
Mhm.
Anything, too much of anything is bad for you. Anything. Like you can think of, and if down to water, too much water can cause problems for you. So anything that you have too much of is not good for you. So that's my things about moderation. So it has its uses. Devices, tablets, phones, they have their uses. Especially, as you said, with homeschooling and, you know, with the pandemic and children are at home and doing online school and stuff like that, it had its use. But I think when it becomes a hindrance is when parents use a device to parent their children, especially younger children. Oh, keep quiet here, here's your tablet, you know, or here's the TV.
I see that.
You know, yeah, I don't want you going outside because, you know, how the world is or whatever. So here's a tablet, here's a phone, here's a computer. So I think that's the problem. I don't think it's bad for you. That would have been my response. It's not that it's bad for you. It's bad for you if you have it too much. And I think you're having it too much. So we need to set some guidelines around how many hours you play on it, for how long you play on it, obviously what content you're looking at, and so on, what games you're playing, and so on and so forth. So it's not that it's bad. It's that it's too much of it is bad for you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Oscar.
And as I said, too much. And then the other thing is when you're using it, you're thinking of a constructive use of it as well. My problem is if you are just using that and you have no goal and whatever. I mean, some might say, well, it's a way to interact with other teens and so forth. Well, the world technology is. That I do understand. Yeah, and especially, you know, during COVID and they sitting when there's storm and whatever, they're interacting, which is good. They're still socializing. But as Colin was saying, it's about the imbalance in there, where they'll prefer stay on a system instead of going and actually interacting with someone else. That's where you try to monitor that with your teens. When it sacrifices their ability to socialize or articulate themselves, you know, all these things we have to observe and try to instill. And it's not just that they're the do's and don'ts, but we're thinking about you as a person when you fit into society. You know, certain things you may not have experienced, and you want to make sure that you experience it so that you can ease in as you move into adulthood or whatever it is. It just, I guess, with young people, I think it's just that honest, straight up talk in the initial thing to let them know where we're coming from. With that child, though, who would have come down with that rebuttal statement, if it is not good, why you buy it? You know, I bought it because I thought you would know or have known how much to use it, but it seems I have to help you, you know, and continue the dialogue here. What?
No, but no, I
no, that's a valid question.
Would say that, I thought you would have known. But how would they know if we don't tell them? How do we know? We have to give them the guidelines. And that's what I'm saying to you about the boundaries. We have to set those boundaries. You can't expect a child to know, even a 15-year-old, if you haven't set boundaries with them about the do's and don'ts of certain things, how will they know? And then we expect children to get to 18, 19, 20. Well, you're a big man, you're a big woman, you should know.
Yeah, it's true.
You didn't tell them though.
Yeah, it's true.
How would they
know? How would they know? So
you hoping they assimilate.
Correct. You think you just by watching and you would see and common sense, and common sense is not that common in children, adults, or otherwise. So that's something that is cultivated as well. So, you know, and I struggle when I hear people, well, he should know, she should know. Why should she know? Oh, well, he's 18.
No.
Okay, no, that doesn't correlate. No. Your age does not correlate with maturity, with understanding.
Right.
It doesn't. Age is literally, in that respect, a number. Right?
One of the things that concerned me with the devices is the lack of sleep that the children get. I find that a lot of our children are not sleeping, they're up playing games. So when, and I know somebody may say that the world is changing and more productivity may go on in the night and the years and more stuff, but we're not at that place yet. And it concerns me that the children are not getting enough sleep. How do I know? The children are very miserable. Sometimes our children come to church or go to work, go to school, and they're tired. They can't make it past 10 o'clock, or they can't get up on mornings and stuff like that. And we are letting our children go to bed with these devices, and then they can't get up on mornings.
Right.
And mornings, getting up on mornings, by the time you are fully functional, the day has ended.
Yes.
Because you didn't
2, 3
get
o'clock in the
Yeah.
afternoon.
you didn't get enough sleep.
Some vampires.
Yes.
Sleeping all day and up all night.
Pretty much.
But it is, that's how it is, because their day is just starting
Yeah.
at 12, 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Wow.
How can you be productive in the middle of the day?
Yeah.
It's impossible. But I find, I had some friends and he's always, it tends to be boys with the gaming. He's up all night and, I don't know how to stop him. There's a thing called plug out the Wi-Fi, which is a classic for me, or take it away.
Yeah, that's a nighttime.
I don't understand. Did it?
Yeah.
Say, you said, don't get me wrong, I have a discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, what time do you think is a reasonable time? We're on vacation now or whatever. What is a reasonable time that you
And
feel?
I'm glad that you said that, because even in vacation,
You still need a routine. Yes, we're in vacation time, so you have a little bit of a leeway. There still has to be some kind of boundary. So what time do you feel is a reasonable time that you can come off and still have a decent night's sleep?
Right.
And you negotiate that. So you
Right.
give them a sense of responsibility, depending on their age group. If they're 16, 17, you can have a different conversation than if they're 9 or 10.
Right.
So you have that conversation and you agree to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that way you're not just laying down the law, you're not making everybody miserable and whatever. You
Right.
have a discussion, and they are more inclined to stick to it because they feel that they've had an input and some control and agency over their lives,
Yeah.
rather than mum and dad just tell me I've got to come off the phone, I've got to come. No, we agreed
Right.
at 11 o'clock, 11:30.
Mhm.
So when I see 11 o'clock, I assume that all devices are off
Mhm.
and people
Right.
are getting their showers or whatever and getting ready for bed,
Yeah.
or at least just to rest if you don't want to go to sleep because you're on vacation, but not on the device.
Right.
you know?
Because you're quite right. Because I find that especially during vacation, we allow our children, and they see
It's
this
wild.
all over. To know there's still no structure.
Yeah, this is
So
nice.
now when school time has
It's a
returned,
challenge.
then how do you get, especially if it's this long,
Mhm,
summer vacation, how now do you get these children to switch back into some sense of order after, for the last few
What,
weeks,
8, 9 weeks?
9 weeks, 8
Yeah.
weeks, that they're just going to sleep whenever.
2 weeks before at least, start getting them back into that
Yeah.
routine. Get
Yeah,
back
for
into
sure.
that
Yeah.
time that you go to bed at 7, 8, 9, whatever.
Yeah.
2 weeks at least to get your body clock back into
Right.
sync,
Right.
so that you're prepared for school. Don't wait till the night before you got school tomorrow. Go to bed
Yeah.
at 7 and then going to bed at 12 and 1. You're not gonna function.
Yeah.
So it really does concern me, and as I said, as I see, maneuver going around,
Mm-hmm.
and I see it, it's a real concern, because these children just look sleepy. And I mean, when 11 o'clock, these children look like they have been dragged out of the bed and stuff like that. So I think it's a real major concern. My other major concern is reading. I find that we're not helping our children or showing them or pointing them
Mhm.
in a direction of reading. So we have children who are just playing games, and they cannot read.
But they
And
have an
that's
answer
a-
for that.
And
You
we
have
put
to
them
read
tablet.
all. No, you have to read. They have to read all the instructions and all the whatever it is. Everything's in English, so you have
Yeah,
to read.
you
So
gotta
you
read.
figure
It's the
that-
same set of instructions,
And
the same set of vocabulary, same set of sentence
Your
structure.
vocabulary not
Your
increased.
vocabulary not
Cannot.
increasing. Your writing or comprehension and stuff is not
Yeah.
being increased. So no, that doesn't work. That
So ladies, so here's the thing. So what I found,
Mhm.
and I've been watching it for a while. So what I found, because of the lack of reading, now we have our children who are swearing, because the next language after limited vocab is to curse,
Yeah.
right? So we have I see young children 7 and 8
Yeah.
cursing, and I'm like,
Serious person.
yeah, serious cursing.
Remember,
Heavy
when
duty
you're,
cursing.
when you're in those gaming worlds, not everybody's cultured.
Right.
Ah.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you don't know who you're mixing
Right.
with, what
Exactly.
you're hearing,
Right.
and stuff like that. So they're
That's the
again
next
going to be
thing.
exposed
Yeah.
to other language, and that's why you're hearing 7 and 8 year olds. And now, even if there's no cursing in the house, they're hearing it because they're in the gaming world,
Right.
Yeah.
and they're being exposed to people in America and Canada and all over the place who are cursing.
Mhm.
And
You
for
can't
some
hear.
people, some families and communities, cursing is part of using curse words is
Mhm.
part of their everyday vocabulary.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So they don't see it as an issue. They don't see it. It doesn't hurt their ears when they hear it. It is like
It's
us talking how we're talking now.
Right, right.
And so our children are being exposed to that as well. And if they've got the earphones on, you
That's
will
what
not
I'm
hear.
saying. We don't know.
You won't.
Exactly, you know.
Yeah.
It's about setting standards, as we were saying
Yeah.
earlier, because at one point where I was very concerned, I went to, it was at the Ministry of Education, and there was this teen with his device, and he came into the area needing service in the accounts area, and the person was talking behind the desk, talking to the young man, and he's on this thing, and the lady's repeating herself. And he's on this thing. She had to tap. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah. And he going back. I was like, I'm wondering how does he operate? How you function? I mean, the guy was at one with his device, even though
But
he was there.
Adults do it too. You go into I went into the immigration office. They had a sign up saying no cell phones at the desk.
Okay.
And that's because it's adults, so it's going into immigration.
Yes.
Yeah, it's no children on their own.
Mhm.
So
You got me done.
it's got to be adults. It's got to be someone who's over 18. It's got to be someone who's over 18. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if they're a company, they have to be someone over 18. So you've got a sign up in some of the banks as well, and insurance places and stuff like that. They have a
Right.
sign up. Please no cell phone. So even though we're concerned about children, that's our topic. You talked about role modeling.
Yes.
So I drive around, I see adults on their phone walking and texting or whatever they're doing on their phones.
Yeah.
So children see that it becomes normal
Right.
activity.
Right.
Mhm.
So it's no big deal,
Yeah.
you know. And again, if the parents are not telling them or the guardian is not saying to them,
Mhm.
when you go in, make sure you don't have your phone, you pay attention to the woman or the man behind the screen, etc., etc. But we just expect our children to know. Why
Yeah.
would they know? They only know what we tell them or show them.
Yeah.
So, if we go into a store and I say to my son, right, you're going to go up to the counter, you're going to ask for X, Y, and Z. When you go there, you say, good morning, you do this. And
Right.
you give them guidance.
Yeah.
And you let them practice that. So
Yes.
that when they're 18, 19, 20, they can do it. There's no point in telling them, oh, you're 18, 19, you should know why you don't know, you fool.
Yeah, no, can't be calling names.
Exactly.
Again,
But that's what
the
happens.
parent has not embraced their role as a teacher or one that will
Or as a
offer
developer.
guidance, but that another terminology
Yeah.
as well. And that is actually, it's like you're giving them the building blocks.
That's your
So if you
job.
don't give them that, or you should be able to say, well, did I tell you about X, Y, and Z? Or, you have to give them the tools to
Correct.
work with.
Mhm.
And I mean, and we adults, if we sit carefully and when we're in this structure of university or whatever, we get so annoyed when we are tested on something for which information wasn't given to us.
Right, right,
It's the
right.
same thing we're
Right.
doing with
Very
our
true.
young
Yes,
people.
yes,
Right.
You're going to test them, you expect X, Y, and Z for them, but you never give them the handout.
Right.
You never give them the
Like you
information.
said, you're parented how you were
Parent,
parented.
it's true.
So how do you break that cycle?
Mindset.
But how do you break that cycle?
But
I think conversation. I think
Mhm.
there need to be more conversation because somebody said teacher and then somebody said more
guidance.
guidance.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think the first priority of a parent is teaching and guidance.
Agreed.
And if we don't assume those roles quickly and early,
True.
our children will go in different directions.
Mhm.
If you look around, even here in Barbados, you look around and you see children on the streets by themselves.
Yeah.
Why are
Yeah.
children on the streets by themselves? They are raising themselves,
Mm.
and a child cannot raise him or herself.
Yeah.
And so those things concern me. So it says to me, where is the teaching and where is the guiding?
Exactly.
Right? And
Exactly.
what happens now, then we release them into society, having been not taught, having been not guided. So then they have no idea about a lot of things. And
And then when they become adults now and someone wants to teach them, wants
Right.
to guide them,
Yeah.
it's a whole hullabaloo.
Right.
Because I'm a
Opposition.
grown person, why are you telling me
This
all
now.
of this.
Right.
Right.
'Cause- and the truth is,
It's like,
yeah, you're right. Like the other side to it is where we have, because I see we have rebellious adults now because
Very much so.
parents parented them too aggressively. So
Yeah.
now when they get a culture shock
Mhm.
when they go to other workplaces and stuff like that, and somebody has to say, but this is my workplace, you can't do that. You're like, what? I'm a big man. You know what? I can leave your place.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
So those things are crucial as we are raising our teenage
Mhm.
children in this day and age.
Mhm.
I really believe, and I've seen that guidance and teaching are missing. So like you said earlier, Doc, you give them a tablet.
Mhm.
Go there, keep quiet, go in your room and sit down and play with that thing, and don't let me hear your noise for the rest of the day
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
I'm
And
glad to hear that.
yeah, they're glad to hear that. And all of that is dangerous. The thing about the cyber world
Mhm.
is
Wow.
the cyber world can be it is you can just sit there and you feel like you've gone to China
Yeah,
and you're in Barbados or you're Trinidad or wherever you are, and you feel like you have just moved someplace by simply a click.
Yeah.
And we are in the era now where you have these
Visualization.
the
Yes,
oh,
yes.
man. So you are actually in the place. The only way you know you're not is when you take off
The
the
glasses.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So guidance is important. Sorry,
Mhm.
and teaching is also important. And I think that those are two fundamental rules. And the scripture says, "Train up a child the way it should grow. And when it's old, it will not depart from it." It means the foundational things that are taught to a child, you return to as you get older. Because it becomes your value system. And if there's no value system, there's no teaching, no guidance, then what can you return to? Like you said earlier, you've never been taught. So we take it for granted that a child knows, on mornings at 7 o'clock, you have to get up and get ready for school. Or you have to, the day before, pack your bag so that in the morning, there's no rushing, and then you forget all of your books and so on, your homework, and the teacher has to be upset and call. All of those things are important because what does it do? It prepares the child for life to come. The next 10 years, the next 15 years, the next 20 years, and whatever. So we teaching is organization, and organizational skills. And the first organizational skills are taught at home, not in the people's classroom.
Exactly.
So we having gone into schools and stuff and worked with children, these children are so disorganized. And you can pretty much know what at home looks like by having conversations with children. And so I really am concerned about it, the teaching and the guidance, because obviously, and somebody will say, "Oh, you're being negative," but it's not a matter of being negative. It's what presents itself to you that you know that if certain things aren't done, certain procedures aren't followed, certain there's not certain behavioral practices and so on, you know what will happen.
Well,
in
it's
time to
said
come.
without that kind of these roles being exercised. Now let's put it this way: when we work in our role in terms of guiding and teaching, that helps to build the transition between the teen into adulthood. That builds a healthy transition for every area that we flow. If they are not helped, they go into life being flowed without flow. So therefore, and that is why it's so important that we have to humble ourselves and learn from persons who may have had an experience or who have a better or stronger personality in one particular area. How do you do so and so? You learn from one another. And especially when you put it this way, that I am thinking about the child functioning when I am not there. I am thinking about the child functioning when he is 30 something years old. How are they going to make it? If they want to go overseas and study on their own, how would they function? So all of these questions, you'll hate that they miss out on opportunities because they think they can't make a decision because mommy is there. Isn't there. You know, so
Very
all
true.
of these things, you know, it helps to put our minds in this position where you got to give them the info and then hold back a little bit. Let's see what happens.
Mhm.
You know,
Very
but-
true. So we've come to the end of our program this evening. We've just gone over the time. So we don't want to keep you any longer. Then you disappear on us because we know you have other things to do. So we want to continue this discussion next week. But ladies, maybe we can look at the parental roles in teenagers and stuff like that. We'll
Yeah.
talk about it
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But we really believe in this. And as I said earlier, all three of us are parents and we're parenting teenagers, or we have parent teenagers at some point. And, you know, as they have gone, some of them have gone to adulthood. And we are also very active with young people as well in our own right. So we want to thank you for joining us this evening on Living Life God's Way. We hope that something that we've shared would have been a blessing to you and something to encourage you. One of the things I'm going to give my closing thoughts, and I'll let the ladies give theirs. My closing thought is, please, parents, for heaven's sake, manage the devices. Don't let the children sit on the devices all day, all night. And also, please, get your children into reading. You can create the culture. You can say, you know what, at 6 o'clock on evenings is family read time, and we're all gonna read together. You can culturalize your children like that. I know it may be difficult to get your teenagers to do that if you weren't doing it before, but the young ones, maybe you can still guide them as well. But I think reading is important. Elder Sharni and then Doc.
Yeah, I saw a wonderful quote by Anne Landers, and it says, "It is not what you do for your children, but what you have taught them to do for themselves that makes them successful human beings." So it challenges us again as to what it is we are impacting or what we are teaching our young people.
Doc?
Me, I'm probably going to go into it in the next session, but for me, it's about how we speak to our children and the words that we use when we're speaking to them has a profound impact on them. And the scripture, Colossians 3:21, it says, "Fathers, do not aggravate your children or they will become discouraged."
Yeah.
And I find that sometimes parents, we talk a lot about honoring their mother and father and all of that. We focus on that quite a lot, but we don't look at the parent's role.
Right.
And it says, you know, do not aggravate your children. How you wish to
Yeah.
interpret that, you know,
Yeah.
is up to you. But I think sometimes we can aggravate our children by not listening to them, by speaking to them a certain way, not showing them certain respect, and forgetting that we talked about going through different phases. So how you speak to a 10-year-old, you won't speak to an 18-year-old, and so on. So I think that's really important in terms of how we communicate with our children, going again with the teaching and the guidance, because how you're speaking to them is also teaching them how to speak to others.
Right.
So I think my thing would be really just reflect on how you speak, or how often and what and how you speak with your children.
All right. Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Elder Sharni. We hope that you've enjoyed today's program, and we hope that it has been a blessing to you. Please share the live stream with someone, you know, on this subject, as we will be talking about raising teens in a Christian home. So you may have a friend, you may be raising teens yourself. Please share this program with others similar to you, and we also look forward to sharing next week as we get a little deeper in this raising teens in our Christian home. They are our future. Our investment in them is of high priority. So we want to get it right so that when we are older, or when we are old, that
Whichever comes first.
that we have these young people who are there to help carry on the mantle of life, the journey of life that God has given to us. So good evening from all of us at Living Life God's Way. God bless you, and we'll see you next week right here. God bless. Bye for now.
Bye.
Welcome to Living Life God's Way. Real life, real talk, real hope. Every show. Join us every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. as we discuss topics relating to life, church, family, education, and so much more. Invite a friend. Tag them even. But don't you dare miss the show. Living Life God's Way every Thursday at 6:30 p.m.